Welcome to the Nature Back podcast. We're here live from Impact Day in Tallinn, Estonia. And my next guest is Martin Villig. Welcome, Martin, co-founder of mobility company Bolt, and you're also involved in charity and education. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, glad to be here.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. So we were talking earlier about your sustainable lifestyle, because I had read in the past, and you've inspired me particularly into cycling everywhere I go. You have talked about how you've changed your lifestyle to lead it a little bit more sustainably. Can you tell me, where does the awakening of that come from?
I think I was a regular father or a family member. We bought at some point a house in a suburb, and my work commutes were about 20 kilometers by car. And at that time, I didn't really realize that, but over the years I started to realize that that takes a big part of my day. Often during the peak hours it creates traffic anger, anxiety, things like that. And also taking your kids to school by 8 or 8:30 often created tension at home, so someone is late and we haven't had breakfast and things like that. And so that actually at some point started me to realize or think that, okay, is that the lifestyle we want to? On some views it's like the American dream everyone thinks about. You live in a suburb, you have 2 cars, everyone's happy, but actually is it something that makes you happy? And then we decided to move to the city center because kids were already becoming teenagers and they had lots of things they wanted to do after school. And because in our area we didn't have schools overall in these suburbs, so I later understood that was a challenge of a city planning. Why do you let to build residential areas, but you don't build infrastructure like schools, kindergartens, even workplaces, shopping, entertainment, whatever people need? When you build a suburb, it should include all of that. Otherwise, we really enforce people to use private cars, and even public transportation often is very weak in these areas. So people naturally start using cars, and if that happens in every city, all the suburbs around the cities, then we end up with a society where the car is the only way to get around. And then we decided to move to the city to give independence to everyone, so kids could wake up in the morning and walk to the school or cycle to the school, and we have our own rhythm. So nowadays with Zoom and dynamic work schedules, I don't have to go to the office by 8 o'clock. I can maybe do 1 or 2 meetings at home and then move to my meetings. So all of this kind of lifestyle has changed, and that put us to think so that, what is the vision, what kind of life and what kind of cities we want. And that also triggers the change of the Bolt's vision about 5 years ago. So our mission now is to build cities for people and not for cars. And that transportation is only a part of it, but overall city planning and the quality of life and all of that is a wider thing I'm working on. And why also education is the same reason that people live in suburbs, but everyone has a feeling that the great schools are only in the city centers, and the suburb schools are not so good for your kids. So why is that? Let's get good school directors, let's get great teachers to those smaller schools or regional schools as well, and then kids could live happily in the area, walk or cycle to the schools, get a great education. After school, they can be active, doing sports, hobbies and stuff like that. And I think this is kind of, in my vision, the cities and countries and the world we would really like to live, so that it's not the parents are forced to be taxi drivers for their kids and all of that. So very roughly, that's what kind of took me to that situation where I decided 6 years ago that I basically ditch my car keys during the week, and I do 95% of the trips by bike, and I do it all around the year, even in snow in winter and rain in spring or autumn. So
I have to say, I think you're going to have to give me some top tips, because I've done 2 winters here now in Tallinn, and don't get me wrong, I love the snow, but my bike definitely gets parked up. What do I need to be doing if I want to be cycling throughout the winter?
Definitely, I agree there are challenges. So Tallinn and probably other cities that get heavy snow in winter, I think we can improve cleaning the streets better, and then currently the focus is all on car lanes, so that they are usually cleaned very fast, but the pedestrian, walking and cycling lanes, these are second or third priority. Although if we look at our city's strategic documents or visions, everyone is saying that the pedestrians are number one, then it comes cycling and public transportation, and then comes the cars. But if you look at reality, then actually the cars are the priority for every city, and usually pedestrians and the other transportation methods for some reason come second or third. So I think we need to build awareness among people. What are the benefits of using multiple transportation methods? Cars are not disappearing, but I think that people should have a choice to pick whatever transportation method I need. If I'm going 1 or 2 or 3 kilometers, I could use walking or cycling very easily. But if the infrastructure is not supporting it, then I'm forced again back to cars. And then this is something that, do we want that kind of society, or do we actually want a different kind of society? And building that awareness is something that is also part of my and Bolt's mission. So really to show people what could be the better future and even the better reality. And then people, if they start understanding it, then they can make choices in the next elections. And we understand that mission is not going to happen in 1 or 2 years. It's going to take 3, 4 or 5 election cycles. It's going to take decades. But we need to start somewhere. And last 5 years, we are on that journey. And me and Markus, my brother, who is the CEO of Bolt, so we are both living that vision daily, and we really believe in that, and we work towards this mission.
Yeah, let's talk about Bolt for a moment, and I do know that you now have a bit more of a backseat role in Bolt, but at the same time, I mean, the company has really scaled, and how did you manage to scale the company, which is involved in mobility, which is involved in putting cars on the road when you think about Bolt Drive, or you think about the people who are using Bolt as the taxi, then how do you scale a company but also keep sustainability in mind, and how is it that you influence then people to use those facilities so they start leaving their car at home?
I mean, scaling every business is challenging, that's for sure, and especially doing it internationally. I would say that the biggest challenge in any scaling is, of course, do you find people, smart people that are motivated by your mission and who really believe in what you are doing. And I think that attracts even better people if you have that mission that resonates with people. And I think that the times that people went to work for money, I think that those are becoming less important for especially the younger generations. And so we saw that when we announced and started working towards that mission, that attracted really, really great people towards us who said that, yeah, I agree that I want to live in a people-friendly city and I want to help and contribute to that. So I think this has been really the key for us to scale. So if you have great people, then you can achieve anything. And I think this is maybe one of the things for every entrepreneur to understand, that what are you trying to do? Are you there for the profit? Are you there for changing the world or some other reason? Everyone might have them different, and I don't judge which is right and wrong, but I see that in our case, this mission-driven growth and scaling have been probably helpful of really getting smart people on board, and then together with them, small teams, then we have 5 different business areas that we work with. We're starting from the taxi service, then delivery services from restaurants and groceries, and then the rentals, which is bikes, electric scooters and cars. So all of these teams have small independent teams that work towards their goals, and they have independence. Of course, the mission is common, but they work everyone towards their own goals, their own problems, their own challenges and wins. And this is basically how how we try to keep it all together. We have some of the base values that are important, some of the principles how we operate, but overall we really try to encourage and then give freedom to all of these teams and people so that they feel they have the power to decide things. It's not coming top down, but it's really also bottom up, and then local initiatives are welcome. So I think those are maybe the principles how we've tried to build the company, and then it comes back again, so that do we really, as the company founders, do we live that mission every day, and are we role models, and do we really inspire other people to follow our steps? And I think that has been our view and our take on that. And yeah, we can work with customers, we have drivers, we have couriers, we have cities, so it's a big ecosystem of many stakeholders, and yeah, we need to share the good learnings, the things that sometimes we fail, what are the learnings from there, rely on the science, on the research, all of these things, and then step by step build it. Go to the next city, again explain to the city what is our mission, what potentially value we could bring to the city, what is the value of building bike lanes. So it helps us to maybe provide more safer scooter and bike rentals, but on the other hand, building every kilometer of safe bike lines creates opportunities for even the people that are not that wealthy. Bike is the cheapest way to get around in a city. So owning cars is usually expensive, considering the leasing, the maintenance, the insurance, the parking, gasoline, everything. So explaining these benefits, and cities start to realize it, that yeah, we should, if we want to have an equal city, everyone could get around, then we should develop also public transportation and bike lanes so that everyone in the city could equally be able to move around, not only the car owners. So this is kind of our approach and how we do it. And we understand that cars are not disappearing, but sometimes you might need a car, but you don't need it every day. And for that reason, we have the on-demand car rental, which is very easy. Once you upload the driver's license, you can just walk to the car, open it with the app, do your ride, whatever you need it. 20 minutes, maybe 2 days to go to the countryside or to a festival or to the beach, and you put the car back and the other people can use it. So what we see from the statistics is that the shared car has 8 to 15 trips per day, and this is usually different people. If that would be my individual car, we would need 15 parking spots next to my house, next to my office, next to the school, everywhere. So, and if you look at if you look at the satellite photos of the bigger cities, especially in US, you can see that up to 60 or 70% of the land in the cities are concrete and asphalt, and that is not for people. That is for cars. So, and I really understand why people move out from that city environment to the suburbs to maybe have a bit of a greenery and grass and a nice house. But if the infrastructure and city is not well planned, that forces people again to use cars and get back to the city. So I think this is the cycle and mindset we overall like to build awareness and people to think, so that whom I vote to the city government, if I buy an apartment or a house, is that a suburb that is well developed, or what can I influence real estate developers to build much more functional suburbs, so that it would be actually friendly for myself, for my kids, for everyone in the community, so people would know each other. And also I would say the loneliness is becoming the #1 problem in the world, because most people don't know their neighbors. They don't even say hello. They stay in their apartment, and due to that, they have mental health issues and things like that. So this is kind of more shared, supportive communities and cities. This is what we envision and what we try to build.
Okay. I actually do know my neighbors here in Tallinn, but I did hear, that's because I forced them to get to know me, because that's a very Irish thing. You know who your neighbors are, and you want to know who your neighbors are. But I do know that that's not a very common thing here. Exactly. But what is common is I'm seeing a lot of the boat drive, and I have to say, from my experience, I've always owned a car. And now that I live here at the moment, I actually don't own a car, and I don't have to think about it because I can use facilities like Boat Drive. How easy or difficult is that to get into different countries? When I think about Ireland, I only know one company that in Ireland that has shared cars. So how difficult is it to have conversations with government officials to get that up and running in countries?
I think in most cities you don't need very specific regulation to do that. So what the benefits is, if the city would understand it, maybe they would provide you a bit better parking terms, so that if the car is shared, the probability that it is parked is much less than with a private car. So as we know, based on the research, private cars are standing 95% of the time, and they are driven only 5% of the time. So they constantly need parking. But the shared cars, they are mostly moving. As I'm saying, they usually do around 10 or more rides a day, so they need much less parking spots. And even though if we need parking, some cities have been able to provide us a bit better terms, because they understand that that overall reduces the number of cars in the cities, and again creates opportunities to maybe turn parking lots into parks or playgrounds or something that actually add value to the people living in a city. And then again, people might start moving back to the city when they see that it becomes more friendly, and cities could actually even increase their tax income. Even smaller local businesses could start flourishing again, because if you look at the smaller businesses, most of them have been shut down since 60s or 70s, and most of the shopping have moved to big and large shopping centers. But it would be much nicer to have a local bakery or a butcher or someone you know.
Candlestick maker.
Exactly, and then we see that trend recovering, and then especially when the streets are highways, cars going 70 kilometers per hour, then smaller businesses can't flourish there. But when cars are going 30 kilometers an hour and the bike lines and walking is also very feasible and safe, then again that contributes to the local businesses which could be reopened, and again people would actually know that I'm buying my bakeries from Jane, who is really the best baker in our region. So that kind of culture, what creates again more people-friendly cities.
Okay. Now, I feel like I'm getting an education here, which I'm very much appreciating. So education is a huge part of what you do now and your community projects. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. We started the Education Foundation 6 years ago, and because I strongly believe that every kid should have a very good education, and that creates equal opportunities for kids then to drive their future. So if maybe some kids are in more wealthy families and the other ones are in more poor families, we see from research again that in many countries the kids from more poor families have less abilities in life because the education is also not as good, then they have more limited options to build their career and maybe build the life that they want to. So this is the guiding principle for me, why I work with education projects. And what I do there, we started with school leadership, because I haven't heard any country that would say that, whoa, we have a flourishing budget in education and we have as much money as we need. Everyone is saying that we have budget cuts and there are challenges in education. And if we now compare to the regular businesses, then the companies that have really great leaders, that have good organizational culture, that have a vision, that can attract good people, these companies tend to flourish, expand, build great things, and probably be profitable as well. And the other companies that don't have leaders like that, they are not flourishing, they maybe manage somehow, usually the employee satisfaction is not high, and they even might go to bankruptcy. So bringing that back to education, we see exactly the same. The schools that have amazing leaders, teachers want to work in that schools. The happiness of kids and often the education, the study results are also much better. And then you go to the other schools when the directors are saying, sorry, I don't have teachers, I have budget problems and things like that. And so that again comes down to leadership. So we see, my vision is that I encourage municipalities to raise a bit of the salaries for the directors or the schoolmasters, and that enables you to have wider choice to really get good leaders, and these good leaders can manage even the limited budget much more effectively. And there are so many opportunities to be creative and things that actually don't cost money. So we see that what is creating challenges for teachers, where is their time going? Often it's bureaucracy. The school director can look into that and see how can I mitigate or lower the burden of bureaucracy. What are the challenges in classrooms? Sometimes you have parents that have problems with schools. They send long letters, or sometimes they even sue teachers because of my kid got 2 or a bad grade in some subject. So this is a massive mental burden for teachers.
Yeah.
How you can solve that? You create the school as a community. You engage parents. You might have parents that are psychologists, that are lawyers, that are specialists on HR. And if they are part of the school ecosystem, the community, then they can help the teachers to solve these problems, even maybe do common trainings, educate parents. What are the roles of modern parenting, how to deal with mental health, how to avoid narcotics or electronic cigarettes, all the challenges that we have in schools. You can do that in common cooperation, and that actually doesn't take money. So that takes down the burden from teachers. They are not burned through, they are not mentally kind of dead, but they see that the community is actually supporting them, valuing them. So those are the small things that doesn't cost money but makes a huge difference in schools. So this is kind of the mindset how I see schools, and as really a community organizations. But if in regular schools people or parents send their kids to first grade and then they go to the final of the 9th grade and see, oh, how did the 9-year go? But they have no involvement in schools.
Yeah.
They don't know what the kids are doing. They only get caught when there is really a problem in school. But the communication is lost between that. So I would say this is kind of my vision of education, and which is again much more healthy communities supporting each other and even managing a good, very good school, much better education with the limited budgets we have.
Okay. Now, when we're talking about education and community, like everything with you in this conversation is coming back to community. And I want to take you back. Obviously, you said you had almost an epiphany about 5-6 years ago to change your own lifestyle. But is there something in your background or how you grew up that brings you back to community? Because it seems that although you're educating people in it and you're involved in all these projects, but it's like you have your own deep-seated craving for community. So what's your childhood like? Sit down and tell me your woes.
Yeah, my parents, my mother has been a teacher for about 20 years.
Okay.
So I think that,
education.
yeah, that is related to education. And secondly, I would say that looking back, I went to school in the 80s, still in the Soviet times. And I saw that part of the education system. And in the 90s, I was really lucky to be in school where we had a really amazing school director. I didn't realize at the time when I was at school, but now looking back, I saw that he was that kind of inspirational leader, and he even happened to be our, class teacher. Usually every class has one teacher, and he was that teacher for us. And so I think maybe those are the things that have influenced I've really been lucky to have that great experience from school. He tried to understand the kind of strength of every student and encourage them, so that he understood that even though you might not be that great or you don't have passion in geography, but maybe you are great in entrepreneurship. So he encouraged that. So he allowed us to be part of building schools' websites or creating hackathons and building business ideas. He sent me to business Olympiad. So he was really looking at every student, and he encouraged that in all his teachers as well, so that you not maybe have the best grades in all the subjects, but try to find what is one or two things that each student has, what makes them sparkle, and what is their passion, and encourage that. And because if everyone is saying that your grades are bad, then students are saying that, yeah, I don't like the school, it's shitty, I don't want to go there because no one understands me, only my friends understand me, and then you might, depends on how the group is doing, you might end up whatever, drinking or doing something bad. But if you get also positive feedback from schools and everywhere, I think this is really, really important. And I think that's why I can say I was really lucky that I'm really happy with my school time.
Yeah, I think that early years educators are really, like, people don't realize the influence that they have on them at the time. It's only in later life. I have the same thing with a few of my teachers, that I remember things that they said or they encouraged me, and it's only later in life that you have those aha moments. And yeah, it is important then. So I don't want to keep you much longer. You've been more than generous with your time. But I want to just ask you, what is the dream? Like, if we could have a crystal ball and say, yeah, like, throw whatever you want into the crystal ball and we're going to make it happen, what's the dream?
I would say that my dream would be that every people living in a planet would actually care, and care about our planet, care about other people, care about their communities. And unfortunately, I see that still there are too many people that care about the money only. They want to become rich or they want to make a profit, but in the end, they don't see the end result. And if you've traveled in Africa or other in Eastern countries in Russia, you see, even in Latin America, you see very massive differences between poor and rich people. And I don't want to live in a country where rich people should live in a cage. And what I mean by that is restricted areas where you have security guys with a high guards everywhere and your kids can't walk to school.
Yeah.
So I would like to have societies where the differences between the rich and the poor are smaller, so that everyone in the society can handle decently their living standards, everyone can manage, and then if you work really, really hard, okay, you can maybe make more money if it makes you happy, but in general, I want to live in a society where everyone would be happy and it would be safe, and in the end, we should rethink the whole global economic system as well. Is 1 liter of gasoline actually €1.50, or should it be actually much more, considering the whole environmental cost that it is there?
Yeah.
And what would be actually the power to change our economic systems that we have in the world now, from the profit-driven economy to really think that, do we need that much profit? What is the actual costs of the services that we consume? Should I be able to fly Ryanair flight for the price of a cappuccino or not? What is the actual price of the flight? So, and if we start pricing the things, what they really cost to the planet and the environment, I think that would start to change that. But it's really challenging, and I don't have a great answer to that question, but I encourage smart minds to think about it. And then potentially we could have a planet that is livable for our kids and their grandchildren and their grandchildren. So yeah, this is...
You've just given me a great idea for a podcast. You, me, and Michael O'Leary. That would be a great conversation. I'd like to be debating that. Okay, thank you very much. My wish for the future is that during the winter in Tallinn, everyone has a falling on their arse story, and I would really like it that we had no ice on the pavements. But I feel that you're the man that's going to make that happen around here, hopefully. So
at least I try to do my part, and I hope the others, if others care, they can do their part.
Yes, exactly. I have to say though, I really appreciate here, and it's something that I haven't seen in other countries that I've lived in, but I have more in the countries in mainland Europe. People do look out after it's like when you're coming back to community, people care about their spaces and clean their spaces and clean the ice off the pavements around their doorstep and stuff like that. So yeah, we just need more of that worldwide, don't
Exactly.
we? Yes.
And that again comes down that are you happy that you live in a city? What is your neighborhood? Is it only a parking lot around your house, or do you have benches? Do you have a barbecue corner? Do you have room for kids' playground? If that happens, people really start to become a community. But if it's only a tall building with flats and a parking lot, there is nothing common and people don't know their neighbors. So it starts from these small things, from every house to suburb to city. So this is kind of the thing I encourage people to really start thinking about, and I think everyone would live more happily in the end.
Okay, you've just solved one issue I always have in my head is why do I live in a city? Because I've never managed to live in a city before, and Tallinn's the first thing, and I thought it was maybe because there's not very many people here, but now I realize it's probably the community that I live in that makes me feel like I live in a little village in a bigger city. So
if your small house and your small garden is a nice community, you could be very happy in the city.
Yes. Okay. Martin, thank you so much for joining us on the Nature Backed podcast. We're going to take a small break now, and we will be back with another great guest.